President Bola Tinubu has approved the establishment of a new Ministry of Livestock Development. This announcement was made as he inaugurated the Renewed Hope Livestock Reform Implementation Committee at the State House in Abuja on Tuesday. The committee is tasked with providing sector-focused solutions to address the long-standing farmers-herders conflict. On September 14, 2023, the National Livestock Reforms Committee recommended the creation of a Ministry of Livestock Resources to help reduce the decades-long violent conflict between farmers and nomadic cattle herders across the country. The establishment of the new ministry is part of 21 recommendations in a document submitted to the President aimed at enhancing the federal government's comprehensive response to the ongoing violence. To discuss this, I'm being joined by the managing partner, Nigeria Farmers Group and Cooperative Society, Retson Tedheke. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's nice being here. It's nice being in the program. Thank you.
It's our pleasure to have you. How do you think the new livestock ministry will shake things up in the government, which other departments might also feel the impact?
Well, like I've always said, agriculture is the foundation of national development. And Nigeria has a lot of opportunity to become the greatest nation in Africa when it comes to agricultural productivity. And livestock management is one area that Nigeria needs to work on. And so it's a good thing that the president deemed it fit to set up an independent agency that is dedicated towards this process. Now, if you look at it in context, the American cowboy industry is worth about $500 billion. The American cowboy and the Fulani herdsman are one and the same person. So when the American looked at the economy of cattle production and management and an industry around it, we look at the sentiment. A ministry like this will come in and look at the benefit and the capacity of this industry to create opportunities, not just in the area of jobs, not just in the area of industrial development, but also in the area of export. Because you have over 20 million cattle in Nigeria that are really poor when it comes to nutritional value, when it comes to dairy value and all the rest. So this agency or ministry, if it is utilized properly, will be similar to what Buhari was trying to do with the NLTP. Focus on productivity, focus on growth, focus on making the economy work, and then focus on what Nigerians have locally. We have a lot of cattle, we have a lot of land, and we can utilize that for the greater good of the Nigerian state. So it's a very good thing when it comes to economic development and growth for our country.
All right, what about the Renewed Hope Committee? How do we make sure they're really listening to the people on the ground, farmers, herders, and local communities, and most importantly, incorporating what feedback they get?
Well, unfortunately, I would say that is one area that the government has not really gotten it right. Because for a project like this to work, you need to go after those who are actually actively engaged, not just in cattle management, but also in agriculture. Now, I often say that one of the challenge of cattle rearing in Nigeria is when you talk about open grazing and ranching. Nigeria cannot ranch. It is not because we don't want to ranch. It is because the resources that is necessary for ranching makes it almost impossible for anybody to say you want to put cattle in a ranch. And so what they should do, this committee that is set up, is to look at the challenges around ranching, is to look at the cost implication around ranching. And with a ministry like this, what you do is to focus on where are the problem spots, where are the challenging areas. I am in Nasarawa State. I'm speaking to you from the farm, from a farm estate in Nasarawa State, in Gati, Kokona local government area. Now, what have I been able to do? What we have been able to do is to build a farm estate that is a ruga in the bush. I have all of the facilities I need. So the cattle are properly managed. You have grazing reserves in the farm. You have all the facilities that is needed to make sure that the cattle are actually well taken care of. So if you cannot have a ranch, you can have cattle structures. You can have farm estate like this that are utilized for the purpose of managing these cattle so that they can become, you hold them in a place, become more nutritional, they have more nutritional value, become more effective for the greater good of the Nigerian state. So yes, the committee has a lot of work to do. Focus on those who are actually doing the job, not portfolio farmers. You cannot do agriculture by sitting in the state capitals and not going to rural Nigeria. The challenge is in rural Nigeria. The opportunities are in rural Nigeria. The focus should be on rural Nigeria. That is what the committee has to do. But if the committee follow all the other committees, and then what you are doing is sit in Abuja and then begin to look at solutions, it's not going to work.
Okay. Do you think there will be opportunities for private companies to partner with the government on livestock projects? And if that is the case, how would they be able to strike a balance between profit and public interest?
The challenge of agriculture in Nigeria is the fact that we make the mistake of thinking agriculture is a profitable venture when it comes to government. That is why you heard all these stories about Anchor Bora's program here and there. Look, the business of government is the security of life and property. One of the core components of security of life and property is food security. So the first things first is that the infrastructure must be available. The structures have to be in place. Low financing must be available, and government must do what government should do, provide the necessary support for the private sector to come and work. If government does not provide the infrastructural support, if rural infrastructure is not available, if mechanical infrastructure is not available, if foundational infrastructure is not available, if financial infrastructure is not available, there is nothing the private sector can do. In my case, in our case here, imagine you are providing light yourself, you are providing dam yourself, you are providing road yourself. The challenge then becomes the cost of production will be too high, and the prices of cow, dairy, and the rest will be too much for the average man or the common man to be able to afford. So what government must do is to come in and do what government should do. Loans at 30%, interest rates are too much. So even if the Ministry of Livestock Management is there, how are cattle farmers going to be able to have access to the money they need to set up ranches? So it should be an entire structure dedicated towards solving not just the problem of herders and farmers clash, but also the economies of production when it comes to dairy, when it comes to beef, and when it comes to the entire cattle industry. That is exactly
Retson, there's so much indeed. There's so much indeed to talk about with this new ministry. We're hoping we can have further conversations in the coming days. Thank you very much for your input.
Thank you for having me.